Imagine a courtroom where the world's richest man faces a shocking $500 million fine, only to have the case take a dramatic turn, exposing potential misconduct within one of the most powerful government agencies. The stakes couldn't be higher as the battle between Elon Musk and the SEC unfolds, revealing a tangled web of corporate power, judicial integrity, and government overreach. But before we dive into this story, I want to hear from you. Comment down below. Where in the world are you watching from? Let's light up this comment section. And hey, if you love stories with high drama, power shifts, and the kind of moments that leave people speechless, you're in the right place. Tap that subscribe button right now. Hit the notification bell so you never miss when we drop the next chapter in these powerful, untold stories. In this intense courtroom showdown, Judge Anthony Trenga slaps Elon Musk with a record-breaking fine. But the plot thickens when Musk's team uncovers explosive evidence of SEC misconduct. What happens next shakes the foundations of both the business world and regulatory practices. From Musk's unexpected humility to Trenga's pivotal decision to vacate the fine, we dive into a case that has far-reaching implications for justice, regulatory oversight, and corporate accountability. Stay with us as we break down this game-changing moment in legal history. The Alexandria Federal Courthouse was filled with a tense, almost palpable silence as Judge Anthony Trenga's gavel struck with an unexpected force. It was April 2025, and the moment felt monumental. The world's richest man, Elon Musk, was about to face one of the largest civil penalties ever imposed in a U.S. securities case. The court proceedings had seemed routine at first, but as Trenga delivered his verdict, the magnitude of the situation became clear. Musk sat at the defendant's table, appearing motionless, while his legal team scrambled to find a way out of the mess. Cameras captured the quiet tension in the room as the judge's decision sent shockwaves throughout both the legal and business communities. The Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, had accused Musk of deliberately misleading investors about the production capabilities of Tesla's new manufacturing plant in Austin, Texas. The SEC alleged that Musk had publicly claimed the plant was fully operational and exceeding its production targets, a statement that was later revealed to be false. Internal documents from Tesla suggested that the plant was experiencing significant delays and technical issues, which contradicted Musk's public narrative. This had led to an inflated stock price for Tesla, which benefited from Musk's optimistic projections. The SEC argued that Musk's statements amounted to securities fraud, manipulating the market and misleading investors, and demanded a severe penalty for the violation. Musk had been defiant throughout the proceedings. His response to the SEC's allegations was both public and confrontational. On social media, he mocked the SEC, calling them the Short Teller Enrichment Commission and suggesting that their actions were politically motivated. Musk's usual brash and confident persona was on full display, and the courtroom seemed like another stage for him to play out his public defiance against regulators. His legal team, however, was a different story. Led by seasoned attorney Michael Friedman, they were preparing for the battle with the full knowledge that Judge Trenga was not the type to be swayed by wealth or public status. Trenga had a reputation as a stern, no-nonsense judge who held all parties to the same high standards, regardless of their influence. But just as the courtroom tension reached its peak, Musk's legal team revealed an unexpected twist. While Trenga had been prepared to deliver a harsh rebuke to Musk, Musk's attorneys presented new evidence that would flip the entire case on its head. This evidence was something that Musk had been quietly gathering behind the scenes. A set of documents that had been withheld from the defense by the SEC. These documents, obtained through a whistleblower within the commission, revealed that internal SEC communications contradicted their public stance on the case. The SEC's own engineers and financial analysts had concluded that Tesla's Austin plant was meeting its production targets, contrary to what the SEC had been publicly claiming. The stage was now set for what would become a historic courtroom showdown, one that would challenge not only Musk's legal fate, but also the integrity of a powerful government agency. As the final hearing began, the atmosphere in the courtroom was electric with anticipation. Journalists, legal observers, and even curious members of the public packed the room, eager to witness the resolution of this high-profile case. Musk, who had already become a household name due to his bold public persona, was now at the center of a pivotal moment in legal history. Judge Trenga entered the courtroom at precisely 9 a.m., his usual composed and stern demeanor making it clear that he was not going to allow distractions or theatrics to overshadow the gravity of the situation. Trenga wasted no time diving into the heart of the matter. After briefly summarizing the SEC's allegations that Musk had misled investors about the Tesla factory's production capabilities, he turned directly to Musk. The SEC had accused Musk of making public statements claiming that Tesla's Austin facility was fully operational and exceeding production targets, which according to internal documents was not true. This misinformation, the SEC argued, had inflated Tesla's stock price, misleading investors into believing the company was performing far better than it actually was. Musk's defense had been that the statements he made were based on the information available at the time and that any discrepancies were due to technical issues rather than fraudulent intent. Judge Trenga, known for his meticulous and direct approach to cases, did not mince words. He addressed Musk with a clear, unwavering voice, stating, "This court finds that Mr. Musk knowingly made materially misleading statements regarding production capabilities at Tesla's Austin facility." The words hung in the air as the microphone amplified his voice throughout the courtroom. The reality of the situation hit Musk and his legal team. This wasn't just a routine case, and Trenga's judgment would have far-reaching consequences. Trenga's tone sharpened as he continued, stating that Musk's public statements had directly impacted the financial markets, causing Tesla's stock to soar and investor confidence to rise, even though the reality behind those statements was far less rosy. "The scale of the violation is extraordinary," Trenga declared, his words cutting through the tension in the room. The judge emphasized that the violation wasn't just about misstatements. It was about how Musk's actions had affected billions of dollars in market value. This was more than a mere technical error. It was a high-profile, blatant disregard for the rules that govern corporate communications. The courtroom was silent as Trenga's words resonated. The message was clear. No one, not even one of the richest men in the world, was immune from the consequences of violating securities laws. Trenga did not stop there. He also expressed his concerns about the cavalier attitude that Musk had demonstrated throughout the trial. This wasn't just about misleading investors. It was about the apparent belief that Musk thought he was above the law. When Musk arrived late to the court hearings, blaming air traffic control issues with his private jet, it further fueled Trenga's frustration. Musk's legal team had requested multiple extensions during the hearings, but Trenga had firmly denied those requests, making it clear that billionaires were not afforded special treatment in his courtroom. Despite this stern rebuke, Musk remained relatively calm, even as the judge's decision loomed large. He sat motionless as Trenga delivered his judgment, though his legal team's nervousness was palpable. The audience waited with bated breath as Trenga's next words seemed to hang in the air. "I am therefore ordering a civil penalty of $500 million to be paid within 30 days. The announcement caused audible gasps throughout the courtroom. This was a record-breaking fine, one of the largest ever imposed on an individual for securities violations, and it sent shockwaves through the legal and business communities. The SEC's legal team, led by Catherine Reynolds, exchanged small smiles. This was a victory they had fought long and hard for, and it was clear they believed they had achieved a landmark win in their pursuit of holding Musk accountable. Reporters began to slip out of the courtroom, eager to be the first to report the news. Meanwhile, Musk's legal team gathered around him, shocked by the enormity of the ruling. They knew the battle wasn't over yet. Michael Friedman, Musk's lead attorney, remained composed despite the heavy ruling. He rose to his feet and with steady conviction requested to present new evidence that directly contradicted the SEC's claims. Friedman's request stunned everyone in the room, including Judge Trenga, who seemed momentarily taken aback. The courtroom was now on the edge of a dramatic turning point. The focus shifted from the fine itself to what would happen next. Would this new evidence change the course of the case, or would the court proceed with the judgment as it stood? The dramatic twist had only just begun. The tension in the courtroom grew even more palpable as Musk's legal team, led by Michael Friedman, made their bold request. Friedman rose to his feet, his voice steady but filled with a sense of urgency as he addressed Judge Trenga. "Your Honor, we respectfully request the opportunity to present exculpatory evidence that directly contradicts the SEC's central claims," he said, catching the attention of everyone in the room. The request was unexpected, especially given the weight of the judgment that had just been announced. The entire courtroom seemed to pause as all eyes turned to the judge. Trenga, who had been meticulously following the case from the beginning, furrowed his brow. His expression remained unreadable, but the shift in the air was unmistakable. He had just handed down what seemed like a decisive ruling. But now, Musk's legal team was claiming that critical evidence had been withheld from them, evidence that could potentially reverse the judgment entirely. Judge Trenga's reputation for fairness and his no-nonsense approach to the law meant that he wouldn't dismiss the request without careful consideration. However, there was also a clear sense that the case was far from over. "Mr. Friedman," Trenga began, his voice measured yet firm, "you've had ample opportunity to present all of your evidence during the course of these proceedings. The time for new submissions has passed." It was a sharp reminder of the traditional legal process, where new evidence is typically introduced before a judgment is delivered. Yet Friedman wasn't backing down. "Your Honor," Friedman persisted, "this evidence was deliberately withheld from us by the SEC until just 3 days ago. We received it through what we believe was an intentional discovery violation. A whistleblower within the commission itself provided us with these documents." The mention of a whistleblower sent a ripple of tension through the room. Judge Trenga's expression shifted slightly, and for the first time, a trace of curiosity entered his gaze. A whistleblower, someone within the SEC, had provided these documents that could potentially undermine the entire case. The implication was significant. If the SEC had indeed withheld exculpatory evidence, it would not only damage their case, but could also lead to further legal consequences for the regulatory agency. The SEC's legal team, led by Catherine Reynolds, immediately bristled at the claim. They had spent months building their case against Musk, and the idea that they had intentionally withheld documents was both serious and damaging. Reynolds stood up abruptly, her voice sharp as she responded. "Your Honor, that's an outrageous allegation with no basis in fact," she said, her words cutting through the growing tension. She clearly felt the heat of the situation. The accusation of intentional misconduct by the SEC was serious, and it was one that, if proven, would not only derail the case but also potentially open the door for investigations into the SEC's internal operations. "Ms. Reynolds," Judge Trenga interrupted, his voice now tinged with a note of authority that silenced the courtroom. "You'll have your opportunity to respond. First, I want to hear from Mr. Friedman." Friedman wasted no time, now fully aware that this was his moment to present the smoking gun, the documents that could change everything. He motioned to Musk, who was sitting quietly at the defendant's table, and Musk handed over a series of internal emails and analysis reports from the SEC. Friedman approached the bench with the documents in hand and passed them to Judge Trenga, who began reviewing them immediately. The room fell into a hushed silence as Trenga read through the documents. These were no ordinary pieces of paper. The emails, marked with the SEC's official header, contained internal discussions among SEC officials. Some of the documents even had Catherine Reynolds' name attached to them, a detail that sent a clear message. This wasn't just hearsay. These were direct communications from the heart of the SEC's operations. Trenga's eyes narrowed as he read. One email in particular caught his attention. It was from 3 months ago and was marked with urgency. It contained a troubling assessment, despite the technical team's assessment that production numbers align with Musk's statements. "We should proceed with the fraud charges as planned. The deterrent value alone justifies the case," the email read. The implications of this were enormous. If true, it meant that the SEC had moved forward with the case despite knowing that their central claim, Musk's misstatements about production capabilities, was in fact based on accurate information. The SEC's own experts had concluded that Musk's claims about Tesla's production numbers were, in fact, correct. Yet the agency had chosen to ignore this in favor of pursuing a politically motivated case against Musk. This revelation painted a picture of an agency willing to pursue a high-profile case for reasons other than truth and fairness, an accusation that could tarnish the SEC's credibility for years to come. As Trenga read aloud from the email, the weight of the moment settled in. The color drained from Reynolds' face, one observer later recalled. Trenga's voice grew increasingly harsh as he continued. This email explicitly discusses the decision to proceed with charges despite the fact that the SEC's own technical team had concluded that Musk's statements were accurate. Reynolds, visibly shaken, stood up again, attempting to regain control of the situation. Your Honor, single emails taken out of context don't reflect the comprehensive basis for our case, she argued, trying to defend the SEC's actions. She desperately tried to steer the conversation away from this damning evidence, but her defense was beginning to lose its weight as the courtroom realized the full extent of what had just been uncovered. Judge Trenga wasn't buying it. His voice, calm but pointed, responded, Ms. Reynolds, are you denying that your technical team concluded that Tesla's production claims were substantively accurate? Reynolds hesitated. Her silence was deafening. This was the moment where everything hinged on the SEC's ability to justify their actions, but it was clear that the defense now had the upper hand. The judge's questioning left her no room to maneuver. For the first time, it seemed that the SEC's case was beginning to unravel. Trenga turned to his clerk, signaling for a recess. We'll take a 30-minute break. I want to review these documents thoroughly before making any further decisions, he said. As the judge left the bench, the courtroom erupted into frantic discussions. Musk, still seated at the defendant's table, turned to Friedman and muttered words that were meant only for his legal team. Despite the severity of the situation, Musk seemed composed, knowing that this unexpected turn in the case could be the key to his ultimate victory. The SEC, on the other hand, was left to grapple with the overwhelming evidence that suggested their case might not just be weak. It might have been built on a foundation of intentional misrepresentation. The next 30 minutes would determine the fate of this case and potentially the future of regulatory practices across the country. The tension in the courtroom was at its peak as Judge Trenga returned from the brief recess, his face set in grim determination. The audience was on edge, knowing that the next moments could completely shift the course of the case. As the judge took his seat and adjusted the microphone, the room fell silent. Trenga, having carefully reviewed the newly presented evidence, was about to make a monumental decision. Having reviewed the documents submitted by the defense, Trenga began, his voice deliberate and stern, I find substantial evidence of serious discovery violations and potential misconduct by the Securities and Exchange Commission. His words hung in the air, and a ripple of disbelief spread through the courtroom. For the first time in the trial, the SEC was now under the microscope for their actions during the case, and the implications of what was about to unfold were enormous. Trenga continued, his tone growing more serious. These documents directly contradict the central claims made by the SEC in this case. He looked directly at the SEC's legal team, who now appeared visibly uncomfortable, some with their heads down and others exchanging quick, worried glances. Catherine Reynolds, the SEC's lead attorney, sat rigidly in her chair, her face betraying none of the confidence she had shown earlier in the case. Trenga paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. Of particular concern, he said, are communications suggesting that certain officials within the SEC pursued this case despite internal technical assessments that contradicted their public allegations. More troubling still is evidence that these exculpatory materials were deliberately withheld from the defense. The courtroom was silent as the weight of the statement hit everyone present. The SEC wasn't just accused of mishandling the case, they were being accused of intentionally hiding key documents that could have exonerated Musk. Musk, who had remained calm throughout the proceedings, sat at the defendant's table with an expression of quiet attentiveness. His usually expressive face was now controlled, a far cry from the brash public figure known for his bombastic social media posts and frequent confrontations with regulators. But in this moment, he seemed fully aware of the gravity of the situation. His legal team had just revealed a flaw in the SEC's case that could lead to a complete reversal of the fine. Judge Trenga's words echoed through the courtroom. I find these actions by the SEC to be unacceptable. It is one thing to make errors in judgment, but quite another to intentionally withhold evidence that could have had a significant impact on the outcome of this case. The judge's emphasis on the severity of the SEC's actions was clear, and the SEC's legal team was now scrambling to figure out how to respond to these serious allegations. Catherine Reynolds, her voice shaking slightly, stood up to respond. Your Honor, while we certainly take these claims seriously, I must stress that the emails and documents being referenced are isolated and do not reflect the broader basis of our case. The SEC acted within the scope of its responsibilities to protect investors and enforce securities law. But Trenga cut her off with a sharpness that had become characteristic of him throughout the trial. Ms. Reynolds, are you denying that your technical team concluded that Tesla's production claims were substantively accurate? His question left little room for argument. Reynolds hesitated for just a moment. Her silence spoke volumes. This hesitation, this unwillingness to directly deny the damning evidence, was enough for Trenga to press forward. The SEC's own internal documents suggest that key officials, including yourself, knew the Tesla plant was meeting production targets, yet chose to proceed with the fraud charges anyway. Trenga said, his voice calm but steely. He then added, the documents also indicate that your agency's priority may have been to make an example of Musk rather than addressing genuine concerns about market manipulation. The implications were staggering. The SEC's actions weren't merely mistakes or overreach. They now appeared to be part of a deliberate strategy to take down a high-profile target, regardless of the truth. Reynolds, unable to effectively refute the evidence, tried to regain control of the narrative. Your Honor, these documents are being taken out of context. The SEC's case is not based solely on these emails. There were many factors at play, and our decision to move forward with the case was in line with our duty to uphold the law and protect investors, she stammered. But the lack of conviction in her voice and the growing unease among the SEC's legal team made it clear that her arguments were losing traction. Trenga, unmoved by her defense, continued. The behavior exhibited by the SEC in this case is troubling to say the least. As a court of law, we are obligated to ensure that all evidence, whether favorable or unfavorable, is presented fairly. The SEC's actions in withholding this information have not only compromised the integrity of this trial, but have also raised serious ethical questions regarding the fairness of their enforcement actions. The room was now filled with a sense of tension as Judge Trenga prepared to deliver his final ruling. In light of this new evidence, this court has no choice but to vacate the judgment issued earlier today, he announced. The courtroom was stunned. The $500 million fine, which had seemed like an irreversible decision, was now officially voided. The SEC's case was unraveling before everyone's eyes, and the repercussions of this decision were far-reaching. Furthermore, Trenga added, I am ordering an immediate investigation into the SEC's handling of this case, including potential violations of discovery rules and ethical standards. I will be referring this matter to the Department of Justice's Office of Professional Responsibility for further review. These were no empty words. Trenga's decision to involve the Department of Justice indicated that the stakes of this case had just grown much higher. The SEC's actions were now being scrutinized at the highest levels, and any wrongdoing could lead to significant consequences for the agency and its officials. Reynolds, realizing the gravity of the situation, rose to her feet once again. Your Honor, the Commission respectfully requests time to investigate these allegations internally before any further actions are taken. We take these matters extremely seriously, she said, trying to salvage what was left of the SEC's credibility. But Trenga wasn't having it. Miss Reynolds, Trenga interjected, his voice stern, internal investigations within the SEC would be wholly inappropriate at this stage. Given that your agency is implicated in these violations, I am referring this matter to an external body for review. The Department of Justice will take the lead on this investigation. This was a direct blow to the SEC's ability to control the situation, and it left Reynolds with no room to maneuver. The courtroom was in a state of shock. The SEC had not only lost the case, but they were now facing an investigation into their conduct. Musk's legal team huddled together, but Musk himself remained calm, as if he had expected this turn of events. His usual bravado was absent, replaced by a quiet confidence as the court proceedings reached a critical turning point. It was clear that this case, once thought to be a straightforward legal battle, had transformed into something much more significant, an inquiry into the very integrity of regulatory practices and the power dynamics between corporate giants and government agencies. Judge Trenga's ruling marked a pivotal moment in the case, one that would set precedents for future legal battles involving powerful corporations and government regulators. With the SEC now under investigation and Musk's $500 million fine vacated, the legal landscape had shifted in ways that no one had anticipated. The courtroom was still buzzing with disbelief as Judge Trenga continued, his words now reverberating throughout the room. After delivering the bombshell decision to vacate the $500 million fine and referring the SEC's actions to the Department of Justice, Trenga leaned forward, his eyes sweeping across the courtroom. The weight of the moment was palpable. This wasn't just about one case anymore. It was about the larger implications for regulatory oversight and corporate accountability. Musk, who had been largely quiet throughout the proceedings, finally broke his silence. His usual demeanor, marked by bombastic comments and playful defiance, was replaced by an unexpected humility. It was a moment that stunned everyone in the courtroom, especially considering the public persona Musk had cultivated over the years, a persona that often involved mocking regulatory bodies, dismissing criticism, and pushing the boundaries of social and corporate norms. Standing slowly, Musk addressed Judge Trenga, his voice calm and measured, though there was a noticeable shift in tone from his earlier, more combative attitude. "Your Honor," Musk began, "I want to thank the court for its commitment to finding the truth." The sincerity in his voice was evident, and this moment of humility caught even his most ardent critics by surprise. Musk continued, acknowledging that while he was relieved by the reversal of the fine, he also recognized the importance of the judicial process in maintaining fairness, even when powerful forces were at play. This statement from Musk was striking. Instead of launching into an inflammatory remark or making a sarcastic jab at the SEC, Musk expressed gratitude to the court and a genuine understanding of the importance of truth in the legal process. His words had a weight to them, and many in the courtroom felt that this moment of reflection was perhaps the most significant part of the entire trial. "I understand now more than ever the impact my words can have," Musk continued, pausing as if carefully considering the implications of his next statements. "While I will always be direct with the public, I also recognize that my communication style has sometimes created unnecessary confusion and controversy. This experience has been a profound lesson in the responsibility that comes with leading public companies that millions of people invest their savings in." This was not the Elon Musk the world was accustomed to, the larger-than-life figure, known for his bold statements and brash confidence. The man standing before the court was different. He was reflective, self-aware, and, for the first time, visibly humbled by the legal process he had been part of. His recognition of the impact his words could have, especially when directed at investors and the general public, marked a stark contrast to the more reckless persona that had often defined his communications in the past. For many in the courtroom, it was a turning point not only in the case, but also in Musk's own growth as a public figure and business leader. Musk didn't stop there. He turned to the SEC's legal team and, in a rare gesture of goodwill, addressed them directly. "Despite our differences," Musk said, "I believe in the importance of your mission to protect investors. I hope that, moving forward, we can find a better way to work together toward that shared goal." The tone of his voice was sincere, even conciliatory. The words seemed to surprise everyone, especially those who had watched Musk clash with regulators time and time again. For once, he wasn't deflecting blame or making jokes at their expense. Instead, he was acknowledging the value of the SEC's role in ensuring market integrity and expressing hope for a more constructive relationship in the future. For the SEC's legal team, this unexpected display of humility and professionalism left them momentarily speechless. Reynolds, the SEC's lead attorney, sat silently, her face betraying a mixture of surprise and frustration. Musk's words had undercut the very narrative the SEC had worked so hard to build, a narrative of a defiant billionaire who needed to be brought to justice for his alleged market manipulation. Musk's unexpected humility seemed to deflate the case the SEC had spent months preparing. It was as if the wind had been taken out of their sails, and the victory they had hoped for now seemed hollow. The emotional weight of the moment didn't escape Judge Trenga either. Known for his stoic and measured demeanor, even he was visibly moved. Several courtroom observers later reported that, for the briefest of moments, Trenga appeared to wipe a tear from the corner of his eye before quickly composing himself. To see a judge known for his strict adherence to the law and his no-nonsense approach show such a personal reaction was a rare occurrence, and it spoke volumes about the emotional weight of the case. It was as if, in that brief exchange between Musk and the court, the true essence of justice had been brought into focus. The recognition of truth, accountability, and the capacity for growth and change, even among the most powerful individuals. "Mr. Musk," Judge Trenga said, his voice softer than before, "this court appreciates your statement. It demonstrates a maturity that frankly has not always been evident in your public communications." It was a rare compliment from a judge known for his tough, no-nonsense approach. The acknowledgement of Musk's growth was significant, not just for Musk himself, but for everyone in the courtroom, as it illustrated that even in the most high-stakes legal battles, personal reflection and accountability could emerge. Trenga paused before turning to address the entire courtroom. "What we've witnessed today goes beyond the specifics of this case. It represents both the fragility and the resilience of our system of justice." The judge's words carried weight as he continued, emphasizing how the legal system, while sometimes vulnerable to overreach or manipulation, ultimately had the capacity to correct itself when given the opportunity to do so. What we have seen today is how truth, when given the opportunity, can prevail. Even when it seems obscured by agendas, power, and influence, truth can still emerge and shine through. Judge Trenga's final remarks resonated deeply with everyone in the room. His words underscored the larger lesson of the case, that the pursuit of truth and fairness, no matter how difficult or uncomfortable, should always remain the foundation of the justice system. The case had become more than just a legal battle between Musk and the SEC. It had transformed into a moment of reflection about the nature of justice itself, about the responsibilities of both powerful individuals and powerful institutions, and about the importance of integrity in all matters, regardless of the consequences. As Trenga stood to leave the bench, he delivered one last statement. In the end, justice is not simply about the outcome of a case, it's about the integrity of the process and the unwavering commitment to uncover the truth, regardless of who that truth might implicate. The entire courtroom rose as Trenga exited, and Musk, once defiant and combative, stood in quiet respect. The atmosphere was one of profound reflection. This wasn't just a victory for Musk, but a victory for the principles of fairness, truth, and judicial integrity. The case was far from over in terms of its impact. News outlets around the world quickly picked up the story, with analysts discussing not only the legal implications, but the broader lessons about corporate accountability, regulatory oversight, and the balance of power in the justice system. The immediate aftermath saw a dramatic shift in public perception of Musk. No longer just the brash billionaire, he was now being seen as a man capable of growth and introspection, something that would shape how the public and regulators viewed him in the future. For Judge Trenga, the case marked a defining moment in his career, a moment where his commitment to truth and justice shone through, despite the immense pressures and forces at play. The aftermath of Judge Trenga's ruling sent shockwaves through the business and legal worlds. Tesla's stock, which had plummeted after the initial $500 million fine was imposed, surged dramatically once the news of the fine's reversal broke. Investors who had feared the worst now saw the legal landscape shift in Musk's favor. Meanwhile, the Department of Justice launched a formal investigation into the SEC's handling of the case. 3 senior officials, including Catherine Reynolds, were placed on administrative leave pending further review. The SEC, once triumphant, was now under intense scrutiny for potentially misconducting its investigation. Musk, having won the legal battle, took a noticeably different approach in his public appearances. Gone were the bold, often combative statements. Instead, he focused more on Tesla's innovations and less on public conflicts with regulators. His victory marked a turning point not just for him, but for how corporate leaders might handle future regulatory challenges. As for Judge Trenga, the case added to his legacy as a principled jurist willing to stand up for justice regardless of the pressure. The case sparked a national conversation about the balance of power between regulators and corporations. Legal experts noted that Judge Trenga had set a crucial precedent, one where regulatory agencies would now face greater scrutiny for their actions. This case highlighted that no one, not even powerful government agencies or billionaires, should be exempt from accountability. For Musk, this legal battle marked a personal and professional turning point. His shift in tone from defiance to humility resonated with many, showcasing his growth as both a business leader and a public figure. The case didn't just change his approach to regulators, it reshaped how the public viewed him, offering a glimpse of a more thoughtful, reflective side. As the dust settled, the case became a lesson in the importance of truth and fairness in both business and the legal system. It was a moment of reckoning for the SEC, a victory for Musk, and a reminder of the power of integrity in the face of power. Judge Trenga's final decision stood as a testament to the enduring strength of justice when it is allowed to work without fear or favor. The story, marked by twists and turns, would be remembered for years as a turning point in the ongoing dialogue about accountability, justice, and the role of institutions in shaping society. If you found this story insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated on the latest developments in the world of law, business, and power. Let us know your thoughts on this dramatic courtroom showdown in the comments below. Do you think the SEC was right to pursue the case? Or did Musk get a raw deal? We'll continue to bring you in-depth coverage of the stories that shape our world, so stay tuned for more. Until next time, keep seeking the truth, and remember, justice always finds a way. Bookmark. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.